We saw some injuries on Wednesday pop up that made the waiver wire very interesting for fantasy football. The Week 6 waiver wire is going to be fun to look at even after it ran because there's still going to be some guys to pick up. Nico Collins went to injured reserve, and a lot of people are looking at Xavier Hutchinson. Right when it happened, a lot of people ran to pick him up. I saw that in my comment section on various videos there. People messaging saying, hey, I picked him up. Xavier Hutchinson this, Xavier Hutchinson that. That means I have to do a video on him because a lot of you guys either need to know about him, you're thinking about him, or you need to know more about him. So we're going to deep dive Xavier Hutchinson today, the Texans offense, to see whether or not you want him for fantasy football. But before we dig in, you need to click the subscribe button like always because we're doing these deep dives on as many players as possible every day. On top of that, we're using these videos to help you set your lineups. Click that button. Stop missing out. Ric Flair's watching you. You don't want to disappoint him. But we got some big news here. Nico Collins is out. One of the top wide receivers in the National Football League. One of the top playmakers. He's out. This is devastating for the Texans. They got some good wide receivers still. But in comes Xavier Hutchinson. Ran on 71% of the snaps when he was out. Got more opportunity. Saw 3 targets. And is a prospect that we've been monitoring throughout the draft process back in 2023. And now things are starting to resurface with him. But at Iowa State, 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns. He was balling out. 987 yards in 2021. Instantly was productive at Iowa State in 2020. And this guy is just a productivity machine back in college. He was just balling out in every game. You look at some of the top wide receivers in every draft class, they do not have a list of games where he's blowing up like this because it's just very productive, and not many wide receivers in college football can really rack up yards game in and game out like Xavier Hutchinson can because he has the ability to get downfield. He's trustable, and Xavier Hutchinson has some upside to his game, and that's his ability to get downfield, box out defenders, and with that large catch radius. 6'2", 203, not overly athletic, but more athletic enough. But his game is to get downfield and win at the catch points. He's very good at that, and during draft season, we are expecting him to go a lot earlier than round 6. Not just me, but a lot of draft aficionados, draft media. Going into the draft, Xavier Hutchinson looked like a wide receiver that was probably going to go middle rounds, maybe even a little bit earlier. And the thing about him, he's very dependable. He's very dependable. You sling the rock at him, he'll bring it in. Has not been productive for fantasy football yet. That makes a lot of sense considering we got Nico Collins, Tank Dell, now Stephon Diggs. He just has to simmer to get his opportunity. The fact that he's still on the team as a 6th-round pick is an indicator that the Texans like him, is an indicator they want to keep him around because you also got John Mechie, you also got Robert Woods. You've got a lot of talent deep on this team, but you got the 6th-round wide receiver here that's kicking around. There's a reason why, and that's because he's been making plays in training camp. He's learning the offense, and they also see what this draft aficionado saw, that he's very dependable downfield and is a player that can carve out a role in the offense, and that's what we're seeing here. 6 targets on the season, not much, but you got Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins here, but Xavier Hutchinson kind of fills that void where Nico Collins is out, where you push him downfield, you sling the ball downfield. Hopefully we bring it in. Hopefully we don't overshoot them, but we're going to win on those contested catches. The thing is, this is not going to be a one-for-one deal. It never will be. Nico Collins is good. Nico Collins is a very good wide receiver. He was very underrated coming out for the draft. He was a prospect we were hitching our wagon to for Dynasty Fantasy Football. We were getting a lot of shares of Nico Collins back in that day because of his ownership of Michigan's passing offense. The volume stats weren't there because it was Michigan. His downfield playability was there. Xavier Hutchinson has good ball skills. And like I said before multiple times, very dependable, sticky hands. He's a guy that if volume comes his way, like it's a game script where Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell are locked up and the ball's going to Hutchinson, he might light it up for you. He might. But also Robert Woods is another wide receiver to look at. 5 targets on the season, and he's been getting work as well. But looking at the routes ran on the year, Robert Woods has 46, Hutchinson 42. Also, John Mechie has 3. He was looking good in training camp. But honestly, Stephon Diggs leads the team in routes ran. He gets a lot of those short to intermediate routes. And then Nico Collins is gone. That's 162 routes zapped. That's 32.4 routes per game zapped. A lot of that's going to go to Xavier Hutchinson. A lot of that's going to go to him because Stephon Diggs can't run many more routes. Tank Dell can run more routes, but not much more. He's already running at 82.5%. That being said, Xavier Hutchinson is going to run more routes. He'll get more targets due to that, but he's definitely going to run more routes. He'll get more opportunity on the field. He'll be at least running wind sprints on the field in a passing offense that likes to get vertical, that will push it downfield. He's at least going to be on the field running more routes, getting more opportunity because Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell can't run much more. And we saw his route participation rate jump up to 66.7%. Tank Dell's route rate jumped up a little bit. Stephon Diggs' route rate jumped up a little bit. But it can't jump up much more because you can't get past 100% on routes ran. That's not possible, but Hutchinson ran 28 routes, so expect him to run about 25 to 30 routes per game, maybe even more depending on the game script and the flow of the game. Expect them to push a 70 to 75% route participation rate. That being said, that's something you're going to want to look at for a wide receiver and an offense that can push the ball downfield. Expect his average depth of target to rise past 8.7 as they figure this out. As a game script and game plan with Xavier Hutchinson, there's some upside with that. And he's a guy that you want to push downfield due to that size and ball skills at the catch point. That's why we were talking about that earlier in the video, because that's where he fits in. Because Stephon Diggs, you can do that with. He's a very good route runner. But at this stage, short to intermediate, where they've been using him at, that's probably where they want to keep him at. Tank Dell, you can get him downfield. You can put him wherever. But again, Xavier Hutchinson has the verticals with his size, and on top of that, at the catch point, he's never going to fill in for Nico Collins for one though. Not the same talent, not as good as Nico Collins. Do not expect that, but expect him to run more routes. That is what we're expecting. That is guaranteed. He will be running more routes. I'm simplifying this to death for you. He's going to be running more routes in a very advantageous offense. Robert Woods is questionable with a foot injury. Over time, this could impact things as well, and he's a very dependable, good route runner, and Bobby Trees has been getting it done off and on throughout his career. Even during his veteran era, Robert Woods can be productive and can be useful for the Texans offense. So if you're looking for Xavier Hutchinson for the long term and you're putting a lot of chips on him, be wary on that. But right now, it's Xavier Hutchinson's time to shine for him to take advantage of those opportunities. And now when you're looking at for this week, I'm not going to 100% trust him. I have to be decimated. I'm more likely not starting him for many of my fantasy football leagues, even if I pick him up, because I do not like the matchup, and I really just want him on my team just in case, because if he does blow up, everybody's going to want him for fantasy football, and I do not want to fight for him off the waiver wire. And you're looking at this matchup, 13.4% behind league average in points per game to wide receivers. The Patriots have been locked down, and mainly because they're in these slow game scripts where there's not many points scored, and the Patriots are in matchups here where it's not very advantageous for wide receivers, but they're also in matchups here where teams want to push the pace because they are locked down against the run. So that's something you may want to look at here, but you don't need him. You're good at wide receiver. He's Xavier Hutchinson. You don't want to put too many chips on him. That's why you don't need him. That's why you don't want him. You're good at wide receiver. You're all right. You rather stash running backs. I recommend stashing running backs, especially at this point of the season. You should be good at wide receiver this part because you should have drafted heavier at wide receiver at the top to the point where you should not be as decimated. There should be some injuries, but if you drafted the way we were strategizing around, going wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, even a couple of those injuries, you should be still good to go, where the lineup decision should not be impacting you so much where you have to fumble after every wide receiver on the waiver wire, so you should be all right in that aspect. However, if you're hurting, then you're looking at him. But I do recommend picking him up so you don't have to pick him up next week. That's the thing, because we're looking at grand opportunities. We're looking at 30 routes and a good offense. We're looking at potential 5 targets a game here. Maybe. I'm not going to guarantee it like Trey Tucker as much, but also the upside's probably even more because we got CJ Stroud. We got a wide receiver that looks to get vertical because that's what we saw in college. That's what we saw him do at Iowa State, getting downfield at the catch point, bringing in the ball. That's what we saw back then. That's what we saw throughout his career, and he was productive throughout his career. Early breakout age, productive, a lot of volume in his final year at college, has size, good at the catch points. That projects as a wide receiver. You're going to push downfield. You let Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell do their thing in their normal roles, and you sling him the rock whenever the defense allows you to do so or when you need to. And Xavier Hutchinson's going to be on the field. He's definitely going to see more routes ran, which could lead to more opportunities. When it comes to picking him up, I want to be early. I want to be early, and I want to see. I don't want to have to fight for him off waivers next week. So if I got a spot, if I got a guy to drop, if I don't have a guy to drop, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Like, if I have a guy that I'm playing with lineups right now, then I'm not going to do it. That's just not smart. However, if I got a guy that I don't like really, that I have picked up just to wait and see, I might do that if I'm hurting at wide receiver because I don't want to have to pick him up next week if he has a big game. I don't want to fight with him with Fab. He's free right now. I can pick him up. I can do the deeds. But hopefully what I said here resonated with you for you to make your decision whether not to pick him up or whether to pick him up. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to learn from you too. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.